signs that your nervous system is overwhelmed. And we're going to talk about day-to-day signs, things you may have heard or been told or just decided is normal for you, but it's actually not really normal. And it's keeping you stuck, and it is setting you up for a massive crash. So it's important to know that our nervous system can live in a state of overwhelm, which is our survival mode response. We can live for up to 13 years before we start to experience the health, physical and mental health side effects of that. Okay, but there are always signs beforehand. It's like our body will whisper to us initially. It'll be like, hey, here is, here's what's wrong. Here's what you need to be aware of. And then if we ignore the whisper, which most people do, right? They ignore it by working more or by drinking or drugs, gaming or social media or sex or porn or food, right? Retail therapy. There's so many ways that we can avoid that little nudge from our bodies saying, hey, there's something not quite right here. What happens is if we continue to ignore the nudge, then it gets a little bit louder. And now instead of being like a, hey, are you listening? It becomes a, hey, knock, knock, knock. Are you listening? Are you there? Are you there? But then we just increase the amount that we work or that we drink or that we engage in our numbing activities. Then it will get louder and louder and louder until we have no choice but to listen. And you can be here for 13 or more years before you start to experience these symptoms. Now you might say, well, I'm in my 30s or I'm in my 20s or maybe I'm in my early 40s and I haven't really been stuck there for that long, so it's okay. But what you don't understand is that unless you've done some inner work, right? Unless you've done some intentional healing work, not just listening to podcasts or reading the books, but never implementing anything. Unless you actually done something, some of the shadow work to start releasing the old baggage, you're carrying around baggage from childhood, and it starts to compound and grow on each other and become heavier and heavier, right? But initially it doesn't feel like that big of a deal. This is a 34-ounce water tumbler. If I was to hold it straight out to the side, right? Straight out to the side like this, then right now it's pretty light. But if I was to hold it for 10 minutes, already it's starting to get a little bit heavy. And the longer I hold it, the heavier it's going to feel for me. And so it's not just a case of the experiences that you've had throughout your life or, the times in childhood and adulthood where you had bad breakups or you were bullied or you had some sort of experience that your nervous system deemed traumatic, right? Your nervous system being the key word there. It's not just those situations. It's also that the longer that you carry stuff, the heavier it becomes. If you've ever exercised or maybe you're like carrying groceries up a couple flights of stairs, the longer you carry it, the heavier it gets. And the heavier it gets, the more tired you get, right? So it compounds that. So there are some very simple signs that your nervous system is in a state of overwhelm. And if you don't do something right now to make a change, your system will crash. Your body will crash. You will end up sick. You will end up with a chronic health condition, maybe something like fibromyalgia. We have had clients completely heal, fibromyalgia gone, by doing the work that we do. It might be cancer. It might be heart disease or liver disease. We've seen it all, and we've healed a lot of it as well. So if you are listening to this and you're like, dang, I've got some of these symptoms, even if you say yes to one, right? Your nervous system is in overwhelm. So you're like, dang, I've got some of these symptoms. What do I do about it? Because that's the most common question that I get. Next week, we are a free 30-day challenge, or not 30-day challenge, 3-day challenge that is free. And we only have half of the free tickets left. So we only give out so many free tickets. After that, you have to pay $44. So if you are watching on Facebook and you want a free ticket to this event, comment Overwhelm. We will send you over your free ticket. If you are watching TikTok and you want your free ticket, send me a DM and say Overwhelm, and I will send you a message. I'll send you a message back with the link. Okay. So sign number 1, and a lot of people are going to argue with me on this one, but it is a sign that your nervous system is in overwhelm. Sign number 1 is you skip breakfast. You're not hungry in the morning. Now, I know that intermittent fasting is all the rage, but you need to understand that when they did studies on intermittent fasting, they didn't look at the long-term impacts. They looked at the short-term impacts, not what would happen after a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. And they tested intermittent fasting predominantly on young, white, healthy males. Okay, so we all have different ancestry. We all have different, for example, if you have Asian descent in your ancestry, you have a bigger pancreas to help with the consumption of more rice than, say, somebody who grew up, for example. Okay, so we have ancestry, which means we then have skipping breakfast massively messes up our hormones. Okay, and when our hormones get messed up, our PMS gets worse, our menstrual cycle gets worse, cramps, all that pain gets so much worse. Okay, so if you are skipping breakfast, if you are just not hungry in the morning, and I'm saying this without judgment because I was here for such a long time. If you are not hungry in the morning, it is because your nervous system has already gone into its stress response mode. Okay, so we have 2 systems. We have our stress response and we have our, let's make sure I'm on time. We have our stress response and we have our like rest and digest response. The stress response is going to move all the blood from our digestive tract to our muscles so that we can run or so that we can fight. And so we don't have time to eat, right? When our survival mode system is activated, we feel like the bear is chasing. And so we don't have time to eat. And what's going to happen is what will happen is we're not going to feel hungry, right? And then if you do eat, you're probably going to end up with diarrhea. So what we want to be aware of is if you're not hungry in the morning, that's your body telling you. Now, how we get rid of this is we're going to show you a lot of the tools next week in Optimized Challenge, how to break this cycle. So comment Overwhelm, or if you're on TikTok, send me a DM saying Overwhelm. I'll send you the link to get a free ticket. We have half of our free tickets left. Okay, sign number 2, you feel energized after a workout, but the rest of the time you are exhausted. Okay, so you'll feel exhausted, you'll go work out, you'll feel energized for about an hour because you get that spike of adrenaline, and then you crash and you're exhausted again. If you have any sort of sleeping issues, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, restless sleep, all of those are signs that your nervous system is overwhelmed. Okay. If you have put on weight and you can't get rid of it, your nervous system is overwhelmed. If you are, to the world, very put together, very organized, very type A personality, but then behind closed doors, you're constantly falling apart. You will constantly have worst case scenario thinking. You constantly have this spiral of anxiety. In fact, if you have anxiety, that's a sign that your nervous system is overwhelmed. Okay. You got that spiral going on behind closed doors. You're breaking down. You're constantly in shame and self-judgment and self-criticism. But to the world, you're perfect. Your nervous system is overwhelmed. If you have perfectionism or people-pleasing tendencies, if you are an empath, your nervous system is overwhelmed. We could be here for the rest of the day talking about symptoms and signs that your nervous system is overwhelmed, but those are some of the most common that I see.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Cycle Breakers. This channel is dedicated to giving you the tools that you need to clear out the blocks holding you back so you can live the life that you desire. Now, before you go, as our special gift to you, we have our 7-day nervous system reset. These are the exact exercises that I give all of our clients in every single one of our programs to help them regulate their nervous system, to make that inner work and clearing out those mental blocks so much easier. The best part, it's absolutely free. Just click on the link in the description below and you'll get instant access.